Hello, my name is Jose Martinez, and today I'm going to be going over how to help your computer's thermals and how to fix them, or not fix them, but how to reduce your heat problem, which is why you're here if you have that. Well, quick disclaimer is that if your computer is a Mac or anything other than Windows, essentially, then this is not the video for you because the Mac OS and something such as Windows, these are two completely different things, and you should look up a video for that instead. This is a video for Windows. Well, first off, I'd like to go over to here where it says type here to search, and you're going to want to type in Windows Mobility Center. As you can see, it's already popped up for me, but you might need to keep typing. I should direct your attention over here where my mouse is, and please say balanced. And these are three settings that you may not see usually often, but let's say you're on power saver, and that's simply because you need, well, to save your battery, because let's say you forgot your charger and you're at work or a friend's house, and this is essentially what you need, because you want to prolong your battery life as much as possible. And let's say you're on high performance, however. This is where, let's say I'm at home and I'm running a game, but my computer's a little slow. So if I want to crank it up a little bit and just have the CPU run a little higher, well, this is what you do. And the expense of this high performance would essentially just be just it draws in more power, so your battery dies. But luckily, you can just keep your charger connected and it'll be fine. However, drawing in power does raise a problem that your computer does start to get a little hot and it starts to get a little warm to touch even. So let's say I'm typing and it starts to feel uncomfortable, but I do need that extra power. This is what you could do. I swapped it over to high performance and let's say hypothetically, my computer started to get warm already. So what I want to do is I want to reduce that warmth, but I also do want to keep more of the high performance part of it. So I want it to perform better and have better cooling as well. So what I want to do is go over here versus type here to search once more. And what you want to do is click choose the power plan. Oops, I've accidentally uh, mistyped. So here's this high performance, and this is the one you should click because that's the one you're using. And it's usually just gonna ask you about balance, but you want to ignore that for now. You could change balance, and it'd be the same way as I'm gonna show you how to change like high performance, and power saver would be the same exact thing. You want to click change plan settings, but remember, you want to click on high performance because that's the one we're changing just for this example. And this is just some settings that you could change, and it's just essentially like turn off the display. And if you're on battery or if you're charging your computer, and let's say you want to turn off the display after idling for like 2 hours, that's usually just how I have it. And put the computer to sleep. I just don't have that on, but you could change that. But this isn't where I'd like to direct your attention to. I'd like you to go over to change advanced power settings. And sometimes this might not load in correctly, so you just click over here to high performance and the one that's currently active or being used. So I'm on high performance and that's the active one, so I click here. And what you might want to do is go over and scroll to the bottom, or you could just drag this to the bottom. And look for something that says processor power management. And these three little settings are going to pop up. The one I'd want you to focus on is maximum processor state. By default, this is going to say 100%. And so let's just to simulate that, I'm going to change them both to 100%. Oops. Okay, so what this all means here is maximum processor state is the CPU and its utilization. So right here, hypothetically, let's say it started off at 100%. So what this means is that the CPU is going to be at 100% when it can. So let's say I give the CPU a very strenuous task, like running several games, and it's like just something that will strain the CPU, and it needs to crank up its utilization and start to use more of the CPU, and eventually reaches 100%. Well, while it starts to use up more of the CPU, the CPU starts to draw in more power, and this power causes excess heat. So what we want to do is we want to reduce that heat. So what we could do is we could limit it. So as I had it in the beginning, so I'm going to put it to 98. What this means is that the CPU will no longer be able to reach 100% of its uh, utilization. So it'll only be able to use 98% of the CPU. And what this could do is a couple of things. First off, since it's no longer able to reach a higher power state, it, it won't get nearly as hot. And another thing is that it disables turbo. And what this means with the disabling turbo is that it won't be able to have a higher clock speed. And this could be good and bad for you. So what this means is a clock speed is essentially the rate that your CPU could do a task for a certain amount of time. So let's say it could do like a certain amount of tasks per certain amount of time, and let's say it could do a couple of tasks like every 5 seconds. And if you're on a turbo, that essentially means like you could do way more tasks than in the same amount of span of time. But what this also means is that if you increase the rate that your CPU could do tasks, that means that usually there's a break between each task, and it uses that break and it focuses on cooling itself. So let's say, oh, it does a task. I'm done. Now I'm going to cool myself. But if your CPU has more tasks and it's able to do them faster, that also means it has less time to cool itself, and this could be a problem. So the trade-off here is you can have higher power, or it could do better essentially by turboing, and it can have higher performance, but it'll also be warmer, and its thermals will just generally be hotter. So by doing this and disabling it to 98%, we're disabling turbo, and that means it won't be able to get as hot, but that also means your computer won't be able to essentially boost up itself to have a higher performance. So this could be good and this could be bad depending on what type of computer you have. But for the most part, this generally won't make your computer very up and like obnoxiously slow. This will just reduce the cooling, or increase the cooling capacity. So it'll generally just help your computer. This won't exactly hinder you. So something I should note is that you need to click apply and then click OK. If you just click OK, it'll exit out, and you wouldn't have changed anything, and you would have to go through this process again. So now that we've changed it, we can show essentially our temperatures. And one way to do this, we have two programs that we could use to look at these temperatures. So one that I like to use is called Core Temp, and here you like to click yes, and it'll prompt up soon. Here, what we can see is the cores and their temperatures. So look here, as it says, it's minimum, and here's max, and you don't need to worry about that. So max just means the maximum temperature that core has reached. So core 1 has reached 60 at max, and core 2 has reached 64. It doesn't mean that it's always at 60. This is what it currently is, and this is just the lowest it's reached. This is the highest it's reached, and this just is just the temperatures. This is if you want to like monitor your computer's temperatures at where they're currently at. And if you don't like this one, another one you could use is Intel Extreme Tuning Utility, and this one will also pop up the same way. And something, if you're launching it for the first time, you're gonna need to head over to System Information. That's where it is. And here you can see a graph over the span of 1 hour as I set it. And you can see to the left side the CPU utilization and the package temperatures, so like what the average temperatures are. And this is really useful to keep an eye and monitor what your temperature should look like. So as you can see, it's generally low here and now, but sometimes it does spike up. So this is just another tool I like to use. Well, thank you for listening, and this has just been how to help your computer essentially lower your thermals just with a software fix. But if this does not help, I would recommend consulting an IT or someone that's an expert or just better at this, and you might want to look at hardware fixes instead of software fixes. Undervolting is also a good solution, but this is not a video on undervolting. This is just on how to lower your temperatures quickly if you need it, in case you need it just to get you through the day. Well, thank you for listening, and have a good day.